Ian Lindsay of Lindsay and Associates has played an active role in the local community since 1979. He has been with RE/MAX, Vancouver Island's most advanced real estate business network, since 1996, marketing and selling residential, rural, strata, recreational, investment, and project development real estate. You'll find true real estate professionals at ianlindsay.ca.
You're listening to Nonpartisan Hacks, the podcast where we talk about good government from the local level on up. I'm Sean Wood, a City of Parksville councillor and 2026 mayoral candidate.
And I'm Joel Grenz, also a councillor in the City of Parksville, but not a mayoral candidate. Today we're talking with someone who's been on both sides of the provincial municipal table. Our guest is George Anderson, the MLA for Nanaimo-Lantzville.
George is a commercial lawyer, a former Nanaimo City Councillor and Regional District of Nanaimo Director, and the Parliamentary Secretary for Transit. George, welcome to Nonpartisan Hacks. Thanks so much for making some time for us today.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
So Sean has once again baked bread for our guest today. Sean, would you like to introduce your bread?
It's an organic flour from Saskatchewan from One Organic Farms. It is a no-knead recipe. George hasn't had any yet. He will be going home with probably 2 loaves today.
Yes,
Yeah.
That's really the reason I'm here. So
He's heard about the bread. And you also get tea today. Sean was very excited to try out his fancy new coffee press, which he did a successful cup for me today. Yesterday's, when we recorded yesterday, a little bit of a coffee disaster.
Our guest was not so lucky. There was some foul language in the garage when I was trying to put together coffee, but tea worked out very well today.
well, good thing I don't drink coffee.
Yeah, today
You don't drink coffee at all?
No, it actually makes me sleepy.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting. Okay. It does not do that to me. I've already had a cup and I am a little bit jittery already.
See, I just get excited talking about politics and just waking up in the morning and being in the best province in Canada.
All right.
Right on.
See, there's a good MLA.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
George, thank you so much for being on the show today. And we thought we'd start with since we're local government elected officials as councillors, we thought we'd start with your origins on the Nanaimo City Council. So how did you get your start there?
Yeah, well, interestingly, I'm going to start a little bit further back. I was part of this program called Leadership British Columbia, which is a program sponsored by the BC government and the BC Chamber of Commerce. And from there, I was 16. The next youngest was 29. The oldest was 73.
Oh, okay.
Interestingly, the oldest person and I became quite good friends. And from there, I volunteered with a variety of different organizations. And some people said, hey, you should consider running for council. And I said, absolutely not. Why would I do that? Local government just picks up the garbage and moves the snow. And a mentor of mine said...
Well, that's not exciting enough?
Unfortunately, not for a 19/20-year-old.
Fair. Okay.
And plus, I was planning to go to McMaster's. So I spoke with a mentor of mine and he said, George, you should consider running. And I thought about it. I said, if you're going to help me get some volunteers and raise money, because campaigns cost money, I'll do it. And before you know, I was 29 votes from 3rd place out of 28 candidates.
Nice.
And was then appointed to the regional board. So, and just in case I'm going to ask you a question, both of you.
Yeah.
How old do you think the next youngest person was after me?
37.
43.
So I was 20.
Is this like Price is Right, where we have to
Don't go over.
Yeah, we can't go over to win?
Well, I'm just going to give you the answer.
Okay.
And the answer is 60.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
And our mayor at the time, John Rattan, was 73. So to put that in context for you, 53 years had gone by before I was even born.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
definitely different perspectives on how to get things done for our community.
What was the situation on the Nanaimo Council at the time? Because I know they've had some pretty big issues in the past, but I'm not sure of the timelines there when you were a councillor.
So I was on council from 2011 to 2014 and also served as a regional district director. We were the council that bought Lindley Valley. We started the groundwork for what is now Hello Ferries. A lot of positive, good work. We also had the Nanaimo Economic Development Corporation. Unfortunately, it was the council after I left. And I'm not saying it's because I left, council sort of went into disarray, but
It's a funny coincidence, but completely unrelated, I'm sure.
But no, we ended up doing a lot of great work. And I can tell you, the 6 of us on council who agreed actually still get together for a coffee or beer every single year. If you go onto my Facebook or my Twitter, formerly known as Twitter, best rebranding in history.
Oh, yeah.
As we can agree. You'll see a number of our class photos that we do every year. And I just saw all of them 2 weeks ago. So, yeah.
Very cool. So on that council, you would have been, as you mentioned, by far the youngest person there. What was the experience like? What did you learn from being on that in that role? And what have you taken forward now to your future roles and what you learned from there?
Well, for myself, I ended up being appointed chair of transportation and helped build a 25-year transportation master plan that still guides the city today. Some people are not fans of bike lanes, but the plan does include a number of bike lanes. But the former chair actually wanted to focus on building more roads. And when I became chair, I said, absolutely not. We have to relook at this plan and put people at the heart of the plan. So pedestrians being at the top of the hierarchy, followed by people who are biking, then by people using transit, and lastly, single passenger vehicles. Because if you look at history, the best type of communities have been the ones that people have been able to go to the grocery store, that they can take their loved ones to the hospital in the most efficient manner rather than having to drive 30 or 40 minutes across their communities. And so that was what my aspiration of that plan was, and we're actually seeing it come to life now. If you look at Metro Drive, a street where children are now riding their bikes to school again, people who are going out and walking, street trees that make the street actually look beautiful. We want to build communities which people actually want to be part of and feel that they can be safe and comfortable in.
Love it.
When you were on council, how did it work in terms of your relationship with those other folks? Were they mentoring you then, sounds like, and learning from you as well from your young perspective?
Well, unfortunately, it didn't start out that way. And John and I are very good friends now. Initially, when I came on, there was a lot of ageism and saying, oh, you're young, you've got to wait your time. Actually, I was told that I wasn't even going to be appointed to the regional district because it was my first term, and someone who came in last was going to be appointed. And our team actually found a quote from the mayor that said, hey, the mayor said the people with the most amount of votes should be the ones who are appointed, because at that time, unlike now where everyone in Nanaimo is appointed to the board, it was only the top 7 vote getters or 6 vote getters. And so there were some people who did actually choose to sort of build a relationship with me. And initially from the outset, people like Councillor Diane Brennan, who's now Freeman of the City, Councillor Ted Greaves. And we really worked together to bring forward initiatives that were helping people, such as a work with the fire department and ensuring that we were laying the groundwork for the new fire hall that we have in Nanaimo, but also on issues like trying to create an environment where small businesses could thrive. I still remember the first food truck festival that we had in Nanaimo. But I can also tell you, as a younger person, there were times where council wasn't willing to listen to me. I was the sole councillor who voted against a garbage incinerator being built in Nanaimo. And that garbage incinerator was going to bring garbage from Vancouver, ship it across the Salish Sea, put it in trucks, and then burn it in Nanaimo. Fun fact, we were not going to be allowed to put garbage from Nanaimo in that incinerator.
Wow. Okay.
And fortunately, the entire community rose up and said, this is a bad idea. I still remember Councillor Fred Patchy saying it's premature to consider whether or not we say no to this project, but fortunately the community came together and said, no, we shouldn't be moving ahead in this direction. So that's why I think it's important to have a diversity of people on local government council so that you can bring that perspective, because it's my generation who was going to have to live with the consequences of that decision. But there's also great decisions such as back in 2012, I helped I was actually the regional district director who put the motion on the floor to save the Island Corridor Foundation. I'm a big proponent of the restoration of rail across British Columbia. I spoke in the legislature recently about how I believe we should be creating an existing rail corridor strategy for the purposes of manufacturing and distribution, and also the opportunities that can exist for passenger services.
Love it. Love all that.
Yeah. So moving on maybe then a little bit to the next phase of your life. You were there from 2011 to 2014. You didn't seek re-election then after that?
No.
You were off to university?
No, I was actually a university student while I was on council.
Okay, wow.
Yes, couldn't keep myself busy enough, so I had to add council too. But I said, I've done what I needed to, helped build a transportation master plan that's going to guide the city, helped bring Nanaimo into the technological age where we actually still today do this electronic town hall. That was a motion that I brought forward back in 2012 that said, let's try and engage our citizens in a different way, because we'd hear consistently about taxes are too high, we don't need to do this, we don't need to do that. And when we had this electronic town hall, we heard from varying people saying, we are very happy that we have 2 swimming pools, we have multiple ice arenas, that we have so much parkland. We want you to do more. We want you to invest in transit. And we ended up winning a national award from the Institute of Public Administrators of Canada, the 4th time it had ever been given to a local government in their history. And we also won a provincial award for that.
Cool.
And interestingly, who would have thought that idea would have prepared the city of Nanaimo for what ended up being the COVID-19 pandemic, because we actually had put in all of these different mechanisms to connect people from their homes and from afar.
Sure, electronically remote. Sure.
Wow.
And then into the private sector you went when you didn't run again for council, I guess.
So I left and went to Osgoode Hall Law School. I finished as valedictorian at Vancouver Island University, then went to Osgoode Hall in Toronto to do my law degree, spent some time in Switzerland at a legal clinic, and time at St. Gallen University, got to meet the lead negotiator for the Iran-U.S. nuclear deal, got to meet the lead negotiator for Brexit on the EU side, then came back to Toronto, worked on Bay Street, and then moved to Vancouver and was practicing corporate commercial litigation in medium and large-sized law firms, while also still volunteering through the Canadian Bar Association, Literacy Central Vancouver Island, and other groups such as the Nanaimo Art Gallery, and moved back to Nanaimo in about 2023. And some people said, hey, would you consider running? And I'm guessing that's probably going to lead to your next question.
Yeah, for MLA.
Well, my next question was going to be about yodeling in Switzerland.
I have clogs from the Netherlands, which is not Switzerland, but I can tell you one of the great things of living in Switzerland was its proximity to all these other countries. It's one of the things I'd love our federal government to look into, because my most expensive flight when I lived in Switzerland was $150 Canadian, and that was flying from Zurich to Brussels, Brussels to Edinburgh, Edinburgh to London, and London back to Zurich.
Yeah, we have such a gigantic country here, the second biggest on the planet, compared to having a bunch of small countries it just seems easier to manage when you have a bunch of small countries, and obviously the flights are hop, skip, and a jump. Hey,
well, if more competition allows for a lot of different things to end up happening, and I don't think that the United Kingdom to Zurich is all that close.
Sure, fair enough.
Well, you are the what I guess it's transit, so maybe not quite the same thing. There's no flights in your portfolio then, probably.
Well, interestingly, I am the Parliamentary Secretary for Transit, but my portfolio includes ports, SkyTrains, rail, and buses.
And let's add short haul flights to that, maybe.
Well, unfortunately, that's federal. So maybe if I run federally one day, but that's not in the plan. So
okay, we'll talk about that next podcast when you're an MP. But we skipped over the MLA part. So yeah, you ran for MLA, and that wasn't that long ago. And so you've been in the role for, I guess, a year and a bit now.
Yes.
What have you learned making the transition through these different stages from council to being out in the private sector, rather, commercial litigation? So I guess you do a fair bit of arguing there. Maybe some takeaways that you can take into the legislature.
Well, I can tell you one of the fascinating things, and it's sort of like my experience in running for council, was that people came to me and said, hey, would you consider running for this role? And I said, no, I'm happy being in the private sector. Mm-hmm. But then there's this book that I read called If Science is to Save Us. And the premise of that book is whether or not we have a duty to be a good ancestor. And when I thought about that, and I thought about my nephews and niece, and I'm like, what type of future are they going to have? And I think about my generation, and that there's not enough housing, there's not enough family doctors. And I said, I'm okay with taking some time away from my own personal goals to help get us back in a direction that I think will be helpful. And that's one of the things that I'm really proud to be part of the New Democrat team, and that former Premier Horgan and Premier Eby are the first premiers in my lifetime that I feel have actually looked out for my generation. We're building the first medical school in over 60 years, opening new spaces at UBC to train the next generation of doctors, like $11.6 billion that has been spent on transit. These are generational and transformative policies. And so I said I wanted to be part of something that was larger than myself. And so to go to your question, Joel, about what have I taken from my experiences of having been a local government official and then going into the private sector, is that, one, I have a tremendous respect for local government officials because they're the ones who actually are making sure there's real change on the ground. Like, people, when council says we're buying a piece of parkland, that is felt by the community. Mm-hmm. When there's a pothole in the middle of the road, you're going to hear it immediately from the people in your communities. And that's one of the reasons why local government officials have such, if they do the polling for local government officials, they rank much higher than provincially elected officials and national leaders. So for me, it's about making sure that I'm talking to people on the ground and really recognizing how we develop relationships in a way that is going to produce results for people. Sometimes that doesn't always work, but I think it's really important that we work in partnership with different partners so that we can achieve the goals that we want to as a province.
Speaking of goals, George, I saw you down at the Ledge just on Tuesday, and you gave Stuart, the chair of the RDN, and I a tour, and thank you very much for that. Your guest on Tuesday was Donna Hayes. And I think the government has some exciting news for our regional district, our hospital district. Did you want to speak to that a little bit?
Well, I can tell you that what has been announced is that we're going to be doing some more work on the concept plan. And our government has put money, has made commitments towards expanding hospital services across the province. And as you mentioned, Donna Hayes, who I believe has also been on your podcast.
She has, yeah.
Yes, was my guest because the Fair Care Alliance has been pushing us to make sure that we move forward. I wrote a letter to the Minister of Health and Infrastructure and copied the hospital board chair, Janice Perino, saying we need to move forward on a hospital tower and hopefully a catheterization lab. So that's where we're actually seeing the initial planning steps for the hospital tower. It's exciting for our region because there is a feeling that people who are north of the Malahat are not receiving the same type of care. And I can tell you my BC NDP colleagues and I have been advocating every single day to make sure that people in our region are getting the type of health care that they need, when they need it, where they need it. But let me tell you, this government has done a lot on healthcare, especially when I think of my Nanaimo, because that's my riding, is that we see 2 new urgent and primary care facilities. In October, we had the groundbreaking for BC Cancer Centre, which is going to be, again, I say it, transformative for this region so that people don't have to go all the way to Victoria. There's been a lot of investment at high acuity unit that is already opened. We've hit the ground running, and as I put out in a post, I guess earlier today, we're getting down to business and making sure that we're delivering results for British Columbians.
Sure. I mean, I can't speak for Janice, who's the chair of our hospital district, or for Donna, but we appreciate you being a real warrior for the healthcare campus of care here in Nanaimo. Really great news that we heard today. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you can get a little bit into what your role is as an MLA, which is different than it would have been as regional district. You're kind of taking a different perspective, taking a different role, have different avenues of advocacy. How are you navigating those avenues to get these sorts of things done for the region? Like, what's the approach there?
Yeah, well, it's definitely different than local government. When I was a city councillor and I wanted something done, I just walked down to the city manager's office, I bang on the table and I'd say, I want this done. There are a lot more desks to go.
I'm taking notes here. Bang table. Okay.
But
metaphorically,
yeah. No, I think you can go and bang.
Actually, physically, okay.
There you go.
Oh, very effective. Very effective.
Hey, it worked in local government. But here there's a lot more stakeholders that one has to talk to. And so first it goes, you're going and talking with ministers, you're talking with the people in the different ministries to see what's actually possible. Then it's talking, it has, depending on how much the issue is, it has to end up going to Treasury Board, which Treasury Board's and 12 individuals. I'm one of those individuals who makes decisions over significant capital projects for the province. And unfortunately, I can't tell you what happens in Treasury Board because what happens in Treasury Board stays in Treasury Board.
I just want to know if you have like special cloaks that you wear or something like that.
No, I don't think
No.
As lawyers, we have special cloaks, but I also can't tell you what we wear in Treasury Board, unfortunately.
Wearing.
But yeah, it's a process of a lot of discussions. And one thing that I said, and as I go to high schools and universities to talk about what it's like to be in public office, is that government's like a supertanker. Mm-hmm. If you want to change the direction, it takes time and you have to have patience. And so that's where I'm grateful to the people of Nanaimo-Lantzville, Central Vancouver Island, who've been really patient as we've navigated this work to advance the work on the hospital tower. So that's a long story, is that there's a lot of discussions to try to move the dial on different issues, whereas I think with local government, not that there aren't a lot of dials, but there's more of a direct path to resolving an issue, because at the same time, the province is responsible for all 5.7 million people. And so back in January, I was in Prince George at the Natural Resources Forum, meeting with CEOs, university presidents, and other individuals in the natural resource sector as to how do we end up creating the environment that allows businesses and the private sector and government to succeed in delivering results for British Columbians. We're seeing a number of mining projects open across the province, which is great because those are good paying, family sustaining jobs that are going to ensure that British Columbia is the engine of the economic engine for Canada.
Love it.
At the council level, we have a strategic plan, and at the beginning of our term, we work with the consultant to develop a strategic plan for that term of council. How do you tackle that when you're an MLA? You're maybe a little bit, you're part of a caucus and part of a party and all that sort of thing. Do you have your own sort of strategic plan? You have your Parliamentary Secretary, so you may have a strategic plan for that. I guess there are minister letters. How does that all work in terms of setting your own priorities for your short time that you have there to make a difference?
Well, I would say that my strategic plan is set by the electorate.
Good answer, George.
Thank you. Well, it's the truth. When I went out door knocking, I heard from people saying, we need to see better healthcare outcomes. I heard from people saying, like heart health is an issue. Like I've had family members who haven't been able to get cardiac services as quickly as they need. I heard from people saying, I want a new art gallery. That was an anomaly, but okay. But I will say, like, that's where I believe the strategic plan set out. And one of the first things that I did when I became the MLA is I started a business leaders council. It's called the Nanaimo-Lantzville Business Leaders Advisory Council, and there are people from construction, investment industry, food supply, clean energy, and so on, hospitality, tourism, who get together and we have conversations about how can we end up creating more economic development, not just for Nanaimo-Lantzville, but across the province. And that's one of the things that in our discussions started to advocate for a port strategy, because our ports provide significant dollars for the province's budget, but also they provide good family-sustaining jobs. Jobs in port logistics pay $80, $90, $110,000 a year working in the long-short industry. We're talking about removing internal trade barriers. When the Coquihalla closed down in 2021, there was no trade occurring across Canada. And the thing is, when we look at British Columbia's ports are Canada's ports, because the wonderful bread that I'm going to have later that you made, Sean,
Very kind of
that grain is coming through British Columbia's ports, is moving along through into Alberta, into British Columbia, and is going. I was shocked when I went and visited Vancouver Fraser Port Authority that grain from Saskatchewan is actually making Sapporo beer.
Cool.
It's fascinating. So that's the type of investment that I think we need to be focused on, but it's also the way that I go and engage with the community at large. I still go out door knocking. I have many people coming to my office talking about what we need to be doing in Nanaimo-Lantzville, and I am focused every day on what we can do to make sure that we are extremely prosperous, because we live in a wonderful province and, dare I say it, the best place on earth.
Love it, George. We won't get into the details about Bill M216 just because it's quite technical, but we don't often see a private member's bill come from the government side of things. So can you tell us a little bit about the process of private member's bill coming from you being on the government side down in the legislature?
So I would actually disagree with you.
Okay.
You often do see private members' bills. It's just the way in which a private member's bill arises is based off an order of precedence. So when I was elected in October of 2024, and we were sworn in November of 2024, the clerk of the legislature essentially put everyone who wasn't a cabinet minister's name into a box and started picking them out until they had picked everyone's name out. And so I was number 12 on the order of precedence. And the reason that I'm disagreeing with you is that one of the first bills that was passed into law last year, or in 2025, was a private member's bill. And that was Darlene Rochford, who brought in a piece of legislation that states if you are a local government elected official, you can't hold two roles. You can't be a city councillor and the MLA.
Sure, yeah, the double dipping.
Exactly, which I think is what most British Columbians expect their elected officials to do, because being an MLA is more than a full-time job. Sure, so to also, how can you properly represent your community, whether it's at the school board or at the local government level, and also be in the provincial legislature? So that was the first government bill. Second government bill that has passed was put forward by a colleague of mine from Burnaby Metrotown, Paul Choi, for Korean Heritage Month. That passed, I believe, in October of last year. So it's very normal to see private members bringing forward government bills. But the challenge is there's less
momentum.
There's actually less government private members, because we also have members who are caucus members, or cabinet members. Whereas the BC Conservatives, Greens, they have many more individuals. So for myself, I put forward a bill that I wanted to be substantive. I think Korean Heritage Month is a very nice thing. And I know the Korean community has been extremely appreciative of it. And I can tell you, as someone who's a K-pop fan, and I love Korean food, it's great that we're celebrating.
Sing your favorite K-pop song right now.
That'll cost you. That'll cost you. It's not free. So
okay. We won't make him do it this
next time.
Okay,
next
karaoke later then.
But The bill that I put forward, Bill M216, actually comes from my personal experience, one as a city councillor and also as a lawyer. So I've seen the local government process as a city councillor. Interestingly, as a lawyer, I've worked on some pretty significant construction litigation cases such as the Shangri-La, but also Danbrook 1, which is in Langford, where, in my opinion, that local government shouldn't be in the litigation that they're in because they didn't do anything wrong. And that's what's at the heart of this bill. The heart of this bill is saying that we need to create the environment to ensure that we're building quickly and ensuring that young people, families, and seniors have affordable places to live and affordable places that they can purchase and rent. We all know that the system is a bit slow, and that's where the hope is that if we rely upon engineers, architects, people who are insured for the purposes of protecting the public interest, that we can move that process along faster. Because I'm going to ask you both a question. What do you think the most expensive material in construction is right now?
Well, I've heard your line on this already, so I can give the answer.
I was going to say concrete, but I don't know.
Well, it's not. The most expensive material in construction today is delay. Okay. Every month and year of delay is costs that are passed on to the end users. And I'm sure you both can agree on that. Because let me tell you, I didn't get into this job of government to stand up for lawyers, even though I am one. Mm-hmm. Lawyers would likely lose some work, but I didn't get into this business of government to stand up for the banks. Like, the only people who should be upset about this bill are the banks who would lose months and years of interest payments. And so I'm going to stand up for families every day. And I also want to work alongside people who want to find solutions. At the end of the day, we should all be working in government to try to make sure that we're delivering results for everyday British Columbians, and that's what I will do every single day.
Sure, I got the answer wrong, so I'll take back my concrete answer. But the reason I didn't know, George, is because
he was thinking actual things, though.
Here,
that's where he got me, was with the delay. See, that was a good one.
Here in Parksville, we run a pretty efficient ship, and actually our approvals are quite quick, and that's why I didn't know what the possible delays would be.
And that's where I would say to both of you, Parksville should be an example for the rest of British Columbia. The work that your council is doing under the leadership of Mayor O'Brien, all of you, is actually doing the good work that British Columbians expect us to do, is to make sure that a senior who wants to downsize can find an appropriate home to live in, that a young person who has done everything right, gone to school, worked hard, saved, that they can find an affordable home. Housing isn't a partisan issue. Mm-hmm. So if people have concerns, I'm willing to listen to them. I have met with regulators, local governments, the fire department, all of these different groups. And I can tell you, like, I don't care about having a fancy headline that says, look, I passed a bill without amendment. I just want to get it right. Sure. And so I already have a number of amendments that I'm going to be proposing to the private members committee to say, hey, I met with all of these groups and that's what we should be doing. But let me tell you, I like building strong coalitions, and it's not too often that you have groups such as the Greater Vancouver Board of Trade and Urban Development Institute, who would be considered center right, and the Canadian Home Builders. But then also on the left side of the spectrum, Homes for Living, Affordable Housing Advocacy Group, Strong Towns Nanaimo, Abundant Housing, which is fighting to make sure that we have processes that ensure that there's middle income housing. This seems to be the right direction that we should be moving in. And if there's a good idea, why not let's try to find a way to make it work rather than saying we can't do anything at all.
Yeah, I mean, you do want to get broad-based support behind any change in legislation or direction for the province, so that's great to hear. So private members' bills, how do they interrelate to the overall government agenda? Backing up a second, one of my first things when I was thinking on council getting into the role is, well, I want to make sure I'm not doing something that has the opposite outcome than I thought it would have when I went in, like, oh, put this forward, and then reverse of what I was trying to accomplish happens. So I wanted, more cats, and I put it forward, a cat legislation or bill or whatever.
Well, Nanaimo did institute a cat bylaw, which I can tell you when we were on council, we chose not to do. As John Rattan said, have you ever tried to catch a cat or herd cat? It's not an easy thing.
It's a saying, it's a saying, it must be hard because it became a saying. But
Backlash.
The backlash or the response or maybe the reverse of the goal that you had happens because of unintended consequences are a real thing. And then so with the private members bill, I'm not saying, it could be any private members bill. How does it connect to the overall government agenda? Because they should ideally work in harmony, I would think.
No, because at the end of the day, you have BC Conservatives who are able to bring forward private members bills. All of us are private members, other than those who are appointed to cabinet.
Right.
Every single person who's elected in British Columbia has a responsibility to bring forward ideas that they think can help their communities. Both of you have been elected, and I don't think that there's a collective discussion, as you say, with your strategic plan, but I'm sure that there's motions that you put forward that you think, hey, this is going to be a good idea for Parksville, and I think are going to provide good results. That's the same thing at the provincial level. I'm taking my experience as a longtime volunteer, as a young person who, when I was on council, right when I was leaving, the average price of a home was $310,000.
Sure, yeah.
In Nanaimo today, it's $890,000. For anyone who is saying we can't do anything, which I can look to Parksville, and Parksville is doing a lot to provide homes, to build faster, I'm prepared to work with people like that. And I want to see results. And I think that's what your council has done, is said we need to deliver results for the people in our communities, because if we don't, we're going to get left behind, and people and residents are going to get left behind, because at the end of the day, it's young people, it's seniors, it's families who are paying the consequences for our delay. And again, delay is what ends up costing everyone when we just choose to not make a decision. Because I don't think anyone would agree that what we're doing right now is fixing the problem. Like, we all need to work together and be surgical and laser focused on how we actually, as you said, make sure that we deliver those results and don't have those unintended consequences. But that means actually making a step, taking that step, not just saying, well, this is the system as we have it and there's nothing we can do. And that's what I would say I've heard from a number of the responses today.
Delay is the most expensive material for getting homes built, George.
Delay is the most expensive material in construction today.
Exactly.
I've heard that from a very wise individual. I don't know where that came from.
Originally.
Yeah, that's what you were thinking. I know. Yeah. Well, that's an interesting, I think, analogy or comparison to the council table, because yes, we can bring forward resolutions or motions to council. Anyone on the council can do that. They may or may not connect to the overall strategic plan. I wasn't quite familiar with how it works at the provincial government level.
And I'll just interject extremely quickly here and just say, so the private members bill process starts by everyone's elected. The clerk gets the private members bills names, puts them in a box, picks them out one by one until there's no one left. And that's when you will be able to bring forward your own idea. After that, once your name comes up, you present it to the private member. Well, actually, you provide it to the House, and there's a debate at first reading. That, at least introduced at first reading, then it goes to second reading, where there is a debate amongst all of the members. If it passes second reading, then there's a public consultation process where members of the public can submit their feedback. Then that public consultation process closes. The sponsor of the bill then goes and presents to the private members committee, who will have looked at all of the public consultation. And then the committee does its work in saying, well, does this work? Should we make this amendment? Can this even work? Does it cause appropriations? If not, then it goes to the House for a report, and either the House passes it at third reading or it goes back to the committee again. And if it does pass at committee, then it'll be introduced again for last reading, and the House votes on it, and the Lieutenant Governor comes and it passes into law.
And it may have financial consequences then. It needs to be incorporated.
Actually, no. So that's one of the key things about private members bills, is they cannot cause any appropriation.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's where
part of the budget.
Exactly, because the only ones who can cause appropriations or cause money to be spent in the budget is cabinet. And that's where you would see, for example, my bill doesn't cause any appropriations, because it's saying, hey, this is just a step in the process, and saying when there's an engineer or architect who pays insurance premiums, let their work stand, such as through the many certified professional programs that exist across the province, like in Nanaimo, in Burnaby, in Vancouver, West Vancouver, Squamish. I can list more of them if
We
you
have
like.
the professional alliance.
Parksville uses professional reliance already.
Yeah, so there you go. My bill goes a little further to say that should something go wrong, let's insulate the local government from any liability and leave it with the professionals, so that what happened in Langford doesn't happen, so that local governments can use those dollars to build sidewalks, to buy parkland, to actually do good things for community. Like, nothing in this bill limits a local government's ability to make decisions over land use planning or official community plans. And I was very purposeful about putting that in the bill so that it would be a clear message to local government that, hey, I think that you are the ones who need to be making decisions about what your community looks like.
George, I love all the insight for the private members' bills and the process there. That was really great. First reading, second reading, third reading.
I was curious actually about what kind of resourcing there is behind a private member's bill from the staff level. Thank you, Sean.
I thought you wanted to know about my role as a parliamentary secretary.
Oh, we do. Yeah, we do that too as well.
Oh, yeah.
But funding. But
what kind of resources? Yeah. So when you put forward a private member's bill, and I guess the order is a random draw. So you, I guess, hope that the government lasts long enough. Lately, the government.
Well, some people will never get to introduce a private member's bill.
Yeah.
George Chow, I think, is number 58 or 60. Yeah,
I gotta wait for that one, George Chow.
How many a year-ish do they go through?
It depends on the legislative session.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, but what is it that you like? If we wanted to bring forward a resolution at the council table, we can talk to staff and they'll help us craft the resolution and maybe do some research, that sort of thing. Is that also what happens?
That's exactly the same thing.
Yeah. So there's like ministry staff, or I don't know what it would be.
Well, there's legislative staff.
Right.
The ministry,
Is it political staff or is it?
No, it's not.
Okay.
It's non-political staff. So you would go to the clerk of the legislature and say, hey, this is the type of private members bill. There's lawyers who are there. They're like, okay, well, we'll help you. What's the intent of what you're trying to achieve? Go and talk to the ministry. They're like, okay, well, this is what you're trying to do. We'll provide our comments. As I can tell you, the ministry did also provide comments in the public members process, but that's how the process works. It's not, no one is working in a vacuum, but what I can tell you is that this bill is 100% my idea, in the same way as my colleague MLA Choi, that was his idea. Going and talking to people, having conversations about how you deliver results for British Columbians. That's what I think people in Parksville expect of you as well.
Of course.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, great. Okay, Parliamentary Secretary.
Well, as you know, I was late today. Had I taken transit, I probably would have been here on time.
Oh, nice. That was good.
All right.
Right on.
And I'm wearing my TransLink socks today, which is always fun because TransLink's doing so many interesting and great things across the province, such as delivering bus rapid transit. Also, we're delivering the Surrey Langley SkyTrain, which is going to actually make it possible for people to get from Surrey to Waterfront Station in just about an hour. A lot of great things, but here on Vancouver Island, we've seen significant investment, $537 million for BC Transit, Nanaimo, and all across the province. There's been a number of expansions that have occurred. I've always seen transit as one of those services that provides equal opportunity. When someone doesn't have to spend a bunch of their dollars on commuting, that ends up allowing them to be able to spend money on the things that are important, whether it's getting their kids skating or swimming lessons, making sure that they can go to post-secondary education, all of these different types of things. So I'm also very proud to be part of a government that has focused so much on transportation infrastructure. I said it earlier, $11.6 billion.
Is there a potential overlap between your other interest, which is the Island Rail Corridor? Is there potential overlap there for getting transit going?
Yep. Well, one of the things for me is actually working as part of my work plan as the Parliamentary Secretary for Transit. Despite the title, it actually includes ports, it includes SkyTrains, it includes rail and transit. I'm working with the South Island communities right now to see what the opportunities are regarding rail infrastructure. There's currently a shared visioning process that's occurring with all of the partners along the island corridor about what the future of the corridor should be, and I look forward to what comes out of that report. But what I can tell you is, interestingly, I think it was the end of January, I had a roundtable discussion with a variety of different partners, such as CN, Hello Ferries, all the ports, to talk about how we can make sure that we are moving our goods across British Columbia in the most efficient way. We have a strategy called Look West, which looks to enhance our skilled trades in the province, looks to see how we can become more efficient with goods across the province. And the work that we did at that roundtable is part of how we're actually going to find solutions to deliver results for British Columbians. So it was very exciting to see groups like CN, AltaGas, all of these different groups talking about how do we make sure that BC's ports are delivering for all of Canada? Because at the end of the day, as I mentioned earlier, British Columbia's ports are Canada's port, but that means ensuring that we have significant rail infrastructure, because the capacity to be able to move goods can't happen unless we have the infrastructure that is in place. Also, partners working together and having that type of synergy. And as you know, Prime Minister Carney said the old world order is over, and British Columbia wants to make sure that we're at the center of delivering the results that the Prime Minister expects of us, but also that Canadians and British Columbians expect of us, so that young people can have jobs that are sustaining, that we can ensure that we are moving goods from Ontario to British Columbia and vice versa.
It's interesting to see how all these issues interrelate, what we're doing at the council table and moving into the provincial level and the federal level and then international. We all have to kind of be working together to make sure all these the results that we're looking for are good jobs, communities that we can feel healthy and thrive in and raise our families in.
I'm very much a results-oriented person. I'm a pragmatist. I just want to see us do good work. And that means working alongside anyone who also has that goal. Like I've had conversations with my Conservative colleagues. I've had conversations with the Greens. Government has a tremendous responsibility to do good. And last summer, I had a summer event where we had 30 community groups, and at the end of the where people could get information, summer barbecue, etc. But at the end, we played the Lorax, so people could we could build community, which I think you are doing through this podcast. But there's a specific message that's always really resonated with me, and it's that unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing's going to get better. It is not. And so that's where the work that we do in the provincial legislature needs to directly impact British Columbians the way that they feel those results. And that means when they go to work, that they feel that their paycheck is actually allowing them to build the type of life that they want. That when we look at skilled trades, such as the investments that we've made around $247 million to ensure that we can actually build the type of province that's going to lead to that prosperity. In September of last year, I went to North Isle Copper and Gold in Port Hardy. That project, if it moves ahead, it will be 600 jobs for that community where there's nearly a 20% unemployment rate. But what is so fascinating is that North Isle Copper and Gold has this great relationship with Quetzino First Nation, and right next door to that mine is Cape Scott Wind Farm. That wind farm produces the equivalent of 24,000 homes worth of energy. And so for me, in that moment, I was seeing two stories of opportunity converging. The opportunity of this mine to proceed, but also clean energy to power this mine. And that is the type of work that we need to be doing, the type of work that is generational, the type of work that is transformative, and the type of work that delivers results for British Columbians.
And dare I say that the way to get that stuff done once people are in the roles of government is with the putting the partisanship aside as much as possible, working together, because at the end of the day, we all share the goal of wanting to have the best possible community here that we possibly can have. So thank you for your work on that. Thank you for coming on the podcast. And I think with that, we'll call it a wrap on this episode of Nonpartisan Hacks. Where can folks hear more about what you're working on? George, you've got some social media. I think you're pretty good on the social media game.
I'm trying my best. So if people want to follow me, they can follow me there, and they can see all the speeches and the things that we're focused on in Nanaimo-Lantzville and across the province.
George, really appreciate you making the time. Great conversation. We appreciate you engaging with all of it, even the stuff where we might not see eye to eye, but I love the collaboration and the nonpartisan parts of your work, working across the aisle. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, and folks listening who may have any good government stories or suggestions or guest suggestions, topic ideas, please stop by nonpartisanhacks.com. Drop us a line there. And until next time, take care of yourself.
And your community. George, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks again, George.
Thank you both for doing this.
Ian Lindsay of Lindsay and Associates has played an active role in the local community since 1979. He has been with RE/MAX, Vancouver Island's most advanced real estate business network, since 1996, marketing and selling residential, rural, strata, recreational investment, and project development real estate. You'll find true real estate professionals at ianlindsay.ca.